It's Friday, the 20th of September 2024. Welcome to the Fast 5 Business News by Fear and Greed, where we give you the top 5 business stories you need to know in just 5 minutes. I'm Michael Thompson, and good morning, Sean Aylmer.
Good morning, Michael.
Sean, 5 stories, 5 minutes, let's go. Story number 1's a big one. Around 47,500 new jobs were created last month, mostly part-time roles, and the unemployment rate came in at 4.2% as the labour market continues to show resilience.
And that's the main reason we ain't going to see an interest rate cut from the Reserve Bank anytime soon. Yesterday's labour force stats were good by any measure. It was the 5th month of better than expected figures from the Bureau of Statistics. No wonder the Reserve Bank thinks the labour market is still providing fodder for inflation. Over the past year, the total number of people employed has risen by 2.7%, but the unemployment rate has also risen, up 0.7 percentage points since its low. So much going on here, including more people looking for work, possibly because of cost of living pressures, also plenty of migration. Economists say look at the unemployment rate. It's a good way to judge the market. That's trending higher, though it's still very low, and it's only rising very slowly. Jobs growth has been driven by part-time work, and total hours worked across the country, they're not really up that much. The level of underemployment is ticking higher. The Reserve Bank's recently pushed the idea that the unemployment rate needs to rise more before it will consider cutting interest rates. Yesterday's figures certainly support that view.
Now, Sean, just quickly, the unemployment rate wasn't the only big economic news yesterday. The US Federal Reserve cut the benchmark rate in the world's biggest economy by 50 basis points.
And it said more cuts are on the way. First cut in more than 4 years now. The head of the Fed said he's not particularly worried about the US economy. He just wants to take out a bit of insurance to make sure that it stays in the good place that it's in. Rate cuts aren't a preset path. They'll certainly fall, but the pace of that decline will depend on what's going on in the economy. Certainly that helped equity markets. The local market hit a record high yesterday. It also helped the Aussie dollar, which pushed above 68 US cents.
All right, moving on to story number 2 now. And the relationship between Australia and the United States remains strong, according to Prime Minister Anthony Albanese, as he heads off or prepares to head off to meet US President Joe Biden at the Quad Leaders Summit.
Speaking from Cairns before he leaves for the US, Mr. Albanese said the meeting is an opportunity for all sides to re-engage. He said the relationship between the two countries is based on common values and the alliances remain strong no matter who's president of the US and who's Prime Minister of Australia. He said he had a very close personal relationship with President Biden, looking forward to meeting him, notwithstanding President Biden, of course, isn't running again in November.
Story number 3, the Future Fund, Sean, is one of the country's biggest investors, and it has revealed that it voted against Woodside's climate change strategy, heaping probably a fair bit more pressure onto the oil and gas giant.
Yeah, and it wasn't alone. Nearly 60% of the register voted against the strategy back in April, and the Future Fund publicly adding its voice certainly puts pressure on the chair, Richard Goyder, and CEO Meg O'Neill. The Future Fund invests about 10% of its assets, around $23 billion in Aussie equities. Yesterday, it released its proxy voting record. It shows that the Future Fund voted against the executive payment plans at a number of major companies, including Fortescue Metals and Harvey Norman. It also voted against the re-election of a number of directors at Qantas. I wouldn't say the Future Fund is an activist investor, but clearly it is active in throwing its weight around when it thinks things should change.
Yeah, seems that way. Story number 4, Sean. Pro-Kremlin websites and social media accounts are pushing the unsubstantiated claim that Ukraine orchestrated a potential assassination attempt against Donald Trump.
Shortly after Ryan Wesley Ruth was identified as the suspect believed to have pointed a rifle towards the Florida golf course where Mr. Trump was playing on the weekend, Russian state media outlets and officials on social media suggested the 58-year-old was an agent working on behalf of Kyiv, according to a report in the Washington Post. Ruth's social media posts show he is a staunch supporter of Ukraine. He's travelled there. He attempted to join the war effort, though the Ukrainian government has denied that he had any links to it or the military. The claims were soon echoed by conservative commentators across the United States. It just gets weirder and weirder, Michael.
It certainly does. Last one, Sean. Story number 5, the company behind Tupperware, the plastic kitchenware that revolutionised food storage after World War II and really just became part of everyday life, didn't it? 1950s and 60s and 70s and beyond, Sean. It's filed for bankruptcy.
Tupperware Brands, a consumer goods company that's based in Florida, said it's seeking Chapter 11 bankruptcy protection after struggling to revitalise its core business and failing to secure a takeover offer, despite enjoying the same cultural ubiquity as Kleenex and Teflon, maybe Breville, all those brands whose trademark names are eponymous with entire product categories. It's really suffered from waning sales, rising competition, and the limitations of the direct-to-consumer marketing model that once defined its success. Remember those Tupperware parties? I do. My mum had them. According to Associated Press, the company said that consumers are shifting away from direct sales. Also, the company cited growing public health and environmental concerns about plastic, internal inefficiencies that make it challenging to operate globally, and a challenging microeconomic environment of the past several years for its financial dire straits.
All right, there we go. The top 5 business stories in 5 minutes. Thank you, Sean.
Thank you, Michael.
It is Friday, the 20th of September, 2024. Remember to hit follow on the podcast. And if 5 minutes isn't enough, you can find our longer daily show called Fear and Greed, wherever you listen to podcasts. And if you're interested in property and real estate, then I would suggest checking out our brand new podcast launched yesterday called The Property Pendulum Between Fear and Greed and Domain, all about which way the property market is swinging and how to make the most of it. The first episode is the 4 things that every home buyer needs to know before making an offer. I'll put a link in today's show notes. I'm Michael Thompson, and that was the Fast 5 Business News by Fear and Greed. Have a great day.